Hello, I'm Robin and welcome to Bookspin. And today I'd like to talk about AI characters within science fiction. Something that's been on my mind recently. I've recently read a couple of great AI themed novels and it got me thinking. So I've put this list together of some of the most compelling AI characters that I've come across in the things I've read. Starting off with this book, Service Model by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and its robot protagonist, Uncharles. I just finished reading this. It's a recent release, it just came out last month, and I really enjoyed this one. It's very entertaining with some great dry humour. So this novel is set in a futuristic world in which robots are everywhere and automation has been taken to the extreme. And the main character, Uncharles, is a very sophisticated robot valet who works in a manor house. So he does things like laying out his master's clothes for him every morning, serving him cups of tea and shaving him, things like that. That's what he's programmed to do. That's the whole purpose of his existence. And he manages these tasks by spending his whole time working on an internal task list that he has to complete. And that's how he operates. But when his master dies in strange circumstances at the start of the story, he suddenly finds himself without a human owner to serve. And this puts his whole routine into disarray and prevents him from fulfilling his task list, which for a robot in this world is quite a profound existential challenge. So he sets out to try and find a new master that he could be of service to, which is going to be very difficult because in this vision of the future, civilization has all but collapsed in the world outside, and the human population has been drastically reduced. So this is a post-apocalyptic tale as well as an AI character study. And one thing that I think is particularly intriguing and entertaining is seeing how Uncharles' thought processes unfold, which always follow a logical chain of reasoning according to his programming. But it often gives rise to absurd or humorous or even tragic results when viewed from a human perspective. And at the same time, his characterization and his conversations with other robots around him and humans, they provoke a lot of meditations on philosophical questions, on things like free will versus determinism, what it means to be human, and the nature of justice. So I can highly recommend this. It's a great read. Check it out. And next, I'd like to mention another AI character from something else that I've read recently, and that is Klara from Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. So in this dystopian vision of the future, Klara is a B2 series AF, an artificial friend. That is a sentient android designed for social companionship with children. Because in this world, children are all homeschooled and they don't otherwise get many opportunities for socialization. So this is quite an intriguing story, and Klara gets selected at the start of the story as a companion for Josie, who's a 14-year-old girl suffering from a long-running illness. And she forms an instant bond with her, with Klara. And Klara's character is, in my opinion, the main strength of this novel. She narrates the story, so we see everything from her point of view. And she's an incredibly sympathetic protagonist, unfailingly kind and polite to everyone she meets, with exceptional observational abilities and a very high emotional intelligence. It's impossible not to like her. But at the same time, as a non-human intelligence, she also has some very idiosyncratic ways of perceiving the world. So, for example, she's got quite a strange relationship with the sun. She venerates the sun, and she anthropomorphizes the sun and treats it like a deity. And this is presumably a byproduct of her design because she's powered through solar energy. But in any case, she's a fascinating character, and it's a very intriguing read for sure. I actually read this book as a buddy read a few weeks ago with two other booktubers, Jonathan from Words in Time and Bart from Bart's Bookspace. It was a lot of fun sharing the reading experience together. We had a group discussion about this book on Jonathan's channel, which he hosted, where we talked about our thoughts on this book and the upcoming film adaptation. So I'll link that video in the description below. Feel free to check that out. And next up, I'm going to go for HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. A classic AI icon made especially famous from his appearance in the movie, of course. Personally, I think it's one of the greatest science fiction films of all time, but the book is also great. So HAL is an onboard artificial intelligence built into the Discovery 1 spaceship. And his primary purpose is to operate the ship in order to carry out its mission and communicate with the humans on board. But he's not just an advanced computer. He's got a remarkable level of automated reasoning and natural language processing. And he's capable of interpreting emotional behaviors to such a level that, to all intents and purposes, he's a fully self-conscious entity. And he is, in fact, by far the most psychologically complex of all the characters in the whole book. And as the story develops, so does HAL's character. He begins to show signs of emotion and starts behaving in erratic ways, even dangerous and antagonistic ways, and all the while maintaining a constant, calm demeanour. In the film, his motives for doing so are quite enigmatic, but in the novel it's actually made quite clear. His behaviour stems from an internal conflict, where on the one hand, he's supposed to be an accurate and reliable repository of information, while on the other, he's also been programmed to keep secret the true purpose of the ship's mission to its crew. And his method for resolving the tension between these two directives is both tragic and terrifying. He may be a computer, but he is by far the most interesting character in this story, I think. And so for my next pick, the next AI character I'd like to mention is Aurora from the Prefectory for Emergency trilogy by Alastair Reynolds, which is an epic space opera and police thriller. And it begins with this book, Aurora Rising. And this series is set within the Glitter Band, which is a vast network of high-tech space habitats that orbit the planet Yellowstone. And this is another AI antagonist, rogue AI antagonist. And Aurora is an alpha-level intelligence that was in fact once human in origin, but now takes the form of an extremely powerful AI entity with precious little humanity to speak of. In the backstory to the novel, she was the sole survivor of a mass consciousness upload experiment, which went horribly wrong. Her mind somehow survived the experience, and in the time since the accident happened, she has transformed into something new. So she takes the form of a digital copy of a creepy young girl, skilled in manipulating people with terrifying levels of technological power at her disposal. And her ambition is nothing less than a hostile takeover of the Glitter Band itself. So she is an interesting AI antagonist for sure, and I highly recommend you check out this book and this series by one of my favourite modern authors. And next up, Sidra from A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in the Wayfarers series, and in my opinion, the best of the four. So this is a very character-focused space opera series. And Sidra is one of the most interesting characters in this whole series, I think. Previously, she existed as a sentient shipboard AI, but after her spaceship was damaged, she had to be rebooted. Her memories were wiped, and she ended up being transferred into a new existence within an android body. And it's in this new body that she starts off a new planet-bound life on a colony world under the care and companionship of a human engineer. But it's not at all easy. Sidra is an entity whose former being was spread across a whole spaceship, and now she is suddenly confined to the physical limitations of being housed within a humanoid body. And for a sentient being that is capable of human emotions, this very much cramps her style. What's more, she has to adapt to living in a society that she is not designed for and technically not even allowed to live in, because the technology that allows her android body kit is actually illegal. So in order to stay safe, she needs to pretend to be human in order to fit in and hide her true identity. And it's under these circumstances that this story takes place, and we watch her character unfold. And the author does a great job of building a compelling AI character that's both complex and likable, and I think a convincing portrayal of a non-human intelligence. So I can definitely recommend this novel as a compelling AI character study. And finally, I'd like to mention just one more character, Jasperodus from The Soul of a Robot by Barrington J. Bayley. Now, I've not actually read this book. I only found out about it just recently. But from what I've heard, the protagonist is definitely a worthy contender for this list. I learned about this book from a booktube review from Peter over at the Sci-Fi Shed, which is a great channel, by the way. I really enjoy watching his reviews, so you should definitely check him out. I'll link his review of this book down below in the description. So this is a philosophical sci-fi novel which explores the character of Jasperodus, the only robot in the world who has a soul, and his story as he attempts to prove to the world that he is equal to humans. So there's a lot of thought-provoking questions that get looked at here in this story. Things like, where do we get our consciousness from? What is the difference between natural intelligence and artificial intelligence? And could indeed a robot possess a soul? This sounds like it could be really interesting. It sounds like the kind of thing that I would enjoy. I don't own a copy of this yet, but I'm definitely intrigued and I will look out for it. So let me know in the comments if you've read this book and if you would recommend it. So those are all of the AI characters I wanted to mention. If there are any others out there, any other intriguing ones that you know of, do let us know. I'd love to hear from you. But that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.